Hey, Tom from the Run Testers. In this video we are going to be doing a first run review of the new Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature running shoe. Big thanks to Pro Direct Running for sorting us out with the test versions of these shoes so that we could do this review. We're not paid to do this review and we can say whatever we want, but big thanks to the guys for setting us up with these samples to test. Right, let's jump in and check out the shoes. The Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature costs £145 in the UK. We don't have a US price yet. It weighs in at 253 grams or 8.9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is not currently available. Since 2019, Nike fans have eagerly awaited an update to the hugely popular Pegasus Turbo 2. Now, 3 years later, the wait is over in the form of the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. Like its predecessors, it's a shoe that's focused on speed, featuring a rocker design and the return of Nike's ZoomX foam in the midsole. Only this time, that midsole is made with at least 50% recycled ZoomX foam. The upper is made using Flyknit yarns for a secure, breathable and lightweight fit. It features SR02 Cushlon technology to improve the overall comfort, and on the outsole is a waffle-inspired tread to provide grip and protection. Okay, so the fit for me in the Next Nature it's pretty big. I definitely say you might want to size down a size in these because I've got loads of room in the front of my toe, and the toe box is also quite wide as well, so there's really quite a lot of space in these shoes. So I'd probably say size down half a size, if not a full size, in these shoes.
So fit for me was okay. I will say when I did put it on, I was a little bit concerned it might be a bit long for me. Definitely felt quite, spacious up front here in the toe box. So there might be an argument to go half a size down here in this shoe. On the run, it was absolutely fine. I didn't have any issues. It didn't feel long on the run, but I do think maybe potentially you could play around with going half a size down on the shoe based on my kind of initial first run. Outside of the kind of fit, the upper for me was absolutely fine. It felt very comfortable. Weight-wise, I kind of weighed it against my Peg 39 in the UK size 8. It's generally about the same weight to give you a kind of sense of how it kind of weighs in. But yeah, it felt nice and comfortable for me. The kind of tongue, which is, it's not particularly kind of thick, but it kind of stayed secure on top of my foot. I think you get quite consistent padding as well on the kind of heel as well, at the sides and the back as well. There was no kind of real slippage for me out on my run. So yeah, upper absolutely fine for me, felt comfortable. As I said, might be an argument to go half a size down in this shoe, but in terms of fit out on the run, it was absolutely fine.
Okay, so I was a massive fan of the original Nike Peg Turbo. I used it for loads of races. I probably used it for like 3 or 4 marathons. Absolutely love that shoe. I remember the first time that I put it on, I was just blown away. It was the first shoe I'd ever worn that was like a bona fide race shoe, speed shoe. I'd never tried anything like it. I'd only ever ran in stability shoes or cushion shoes, so I was blown away by how good that shoe was. Equally, the Peg Turbo 2, big fan. Still preferred the number 1 just because of the fit. So when they stopped making them, I was heartbroken. I was amazed that shoe line was going to disappear. So when we heard about the new Nike Peg Next Turbo, I was very excited, as you can imagine. In fact, all of us were very excited to test this shoe out. So I've just been out on a 50-minute run at my marathon pace, so about 11k at about 4:20 minute kilometers, which is pretty fast for me. That's what I'm aiming for when I do Chicago. So it was really pushing the limit of the shoes and seeing how fast I could go in them for my marathon distance. What I found is, and I sort of expected this when I took it out of the box, the midsole is actually quite firm in comparison to what you'd expect from ZoomX, from any of the ZoomX shoes that you might have tested. And this recycled ZoomX does feel a bit harder to touch and a little bit more rigid when you've taken it out of the box. So I was a little bit concerned that it wasn't going to have the bounce and the softness of traditional ZoomX, and it doesn't. It definitely feels a lot firmer, it feels a lot harder. I'm not getting a little bounce from this shoe when I'm running in it, and it really doesn't feel like the original Nike Peg Turbos. It doesn't have that sort of fluid motion, that bounce. It feels a little bit more rigid, and I'm not getting a lot from it from that run. But this is a first run, and I have heard that with this material it does take a bit of time to soften it up a bit and get it more relaxed, so that you do get a little bit more bounce and a little bit more softness in it. So I'm really hoping that is the case, because that run that I did in there, I didn't really enjoy them that much. They were fine, I could maintain the pace that I wanted to go at, but they didn't feel like ZoomX to me. They felt like something harder, something maybe like On's helium foam or something like that. So definitely doesn't feel like ZoomX for me, and I'm really hoping that that softens up over the next few runs and I get a similar experience to what I would have got from the previous Nike Peg Turbo. I think over the course of that run it did soften up a bit, because by the end of it I did feel a little bit more comfortable in them than I did when I first put them on, but I think they've still got a long way to go. Now we will be doing a comparison video with the original Nike Peg Turbo and Nike Peg Turbo 2 to see how those two shoes compare. I'm going to be putting my Nike Peg Turbo 2s on so I can compare them with these in the next couple of weeks. Nick will be doing that as well, and we'll see how they actually feel, because it's been a while since I ran in my Nike Peg Turbo 2s, and it could be that I'm looking at them as rose tinted glasses and shoes have moved on quite a bit since those, but we'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks to see how they actually fare against these shoes.
So I haven't run in the original Peg Turbo or the Peg Turbo 2, but I have done a fair amount of running with the kind of latest Pegasus shoes. I've also run a lot in the Invincible and done some running in the Alpha Flyer as well. So obviously those use ZoomX foam in the midsole. This is obviously a different kind of setup in terms of Nike using a recycled version, or one that's made up of recycled ZoomX foam. So I did a 10k kind of tempo run in this shoe. I think my overall feeling about this shoe is that it feels firm, but not in a kind of horribly kind of firm way where it didn't feel comfortable to run in. It doesn't feel like your standard ZoomX midsole foam. I didn't find it tremendously bouncy. Now it isn't just ZoomX foam as well. It's got the kind of SR02 kind of EVA foam in there as well, which I think is what Nike used in their Zoom Fly 5. So that almost, I think, creates something that feels gives you that firmness. I think you don't quite get that aggressive bounce that you get in the kind of Alpha Fly or things like the Invincible as well, but it felt all right for me. It felt comfortable at those kind of quicker paces. The ride felt smooth for me. It felt nice to run quicker in. I don't absolutely love kind of firmer feeling kind of midsole foams, but for me it worked generally fine. It felt good at those kind of paces that I was running in. So from that point of view, yeah, I mean, it hasn't blow me away in terms of how I thought it might do, or I was hoping it might do, but in terms of that run that I did with it felt good. It felt good to me. It felt good to me at that kind of tempo kind of pace. That's where I think maybe this shoe is going to work best, when you're doing those kind of runs where you want to mix up the kind of speeds in your run, whether it's one that you would use kind of or turn to for kind of track stuff, or racing. I'm not 100% convinced yet off that first run, but in that kind of 10k tempo run it felt absolutely fine for me. Yeah, it's definitely firmer. You don't get that amazing bounce from your kind of standard ZoomX foam, but also it's not there. That's not the only thing there that's in that midsole either. And yeah, it felt generally okay for me. In terms of kind of the outsole, nothing major to report there. It was fine. It felt pretty nimble in terms of what it got, in terms of the grip. It felt relatively fine. As I said, I think the upper is, for me, nice and light, kind of how I like my uppers, and it felt supportive in the right places. So for me, it was, my 10k run was absolutely fine in it. Did it kind of blow me away in that first run? It didn't, but it felt absolutely fine for me. As I say, I'm not a lover of firm shoes. This definitely is a little bit of a firmer shoe to run in, but generally it felt okay to me. And I think definitely, it's definitely one of those shoes where I'm like, I need to run a lot more in this to really get a sense of whether Nike's onto something here. I love the idea that it's a more sustainable shoe, and if it can, deliver that and also deliver a shoe that feels good to run in, then great. I can't say I'm 100% convinced just yet on that first run, but my first run was good in it. I think maybe the tempo kind of style runs is where it's going to work best. And yeah, fine for me, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what it's like, holds up maybe on the longer runs. I think probably it's going to be one that's going to work well at kind of half marathon distance in terms of those kind of longer runs. But yeah, we'll see kind of in longer term testing. But so far, okay, not amazing, not, you know, groundbreaking, I think, for me, but it was generally fine for me in my first run.
Okay, so my initial verdict on the Nike Peg Next Nature is that they're not the same. They're not an obvious progression from the original Nike Peg Turbo and Turbo 2. If you're getting this shoe and hoping that you're going to put them on and think, wow, I'm back to the world of the Nike Peg Turbo, I don't think this is the same shoe. I think that recycled midsole foam it feels different to me than that ZoomX that was in those shoes. I'm hoping over time it's going to get a little bit softer, a little bit bouncier, because I'm not getting that from them at the moment. But I want to love these shoes, and I want them to be good. So I'm really hoping that by doing a few more miles in them, that pays off, and I get a shoe that feels like what I want from a Nike Peg Turbo shoe. But other than that, I would say that run, I didn't enjoy it massively. I've got shoes that I'd rather use than these for a tempo effort like that. And yeah, I just hoping they're going to sort of feel better over time.
So initial verdict on the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. I think unsurprisingly, it looks great. You know, it's a Nike shoe. It's always going to look pretty good. I felt the upper was great for me. It was light. It felt nice on that first run. And in terms of that feeling of running in this shoe, yeah, it is firmer. You know, it isn't your standard kind of ZoomX foam kind of feel. If you've run in an Alpha Fire and Invincible and you're expecting to have that feeling underfoot with this shoe, it's not quite the same. But on the same kind of, you know, token, I think the ride was fine for me. I found it comfortable to run at that kind of 10k tempo pace that I did. You know, I like the fact that Nike is going down a sustainable approach, and it feels like this shoe is kind of a work in process, and maybe potentially the next shoe might be closer to what they now, you know, where they nail it. But again, it's early days in terms of testing. As I say, you know, I think there's some good elements here in this shoe, but it's a different feeling shoe in terms of other kind of ZoomX based Nike running shoes. Now, for me, in terms of where it sits, you know, it is a daily trainer potential, you know, it has daily trainer potential ultimately. You know, there's a lot of shoes in that kind of peppy, kind of quick, you know, gives you the ability to run a little bit quicker, kind of daily trainer shoes, you know, things like the Hoka Mach 5, the Saucony Endorphin, Speed 3, I think also things like Puma Velocity Nitro 2, and then, you know, maybe the Nike Pegasus 39 as well. And I think it feels like it's going to be in good company there. Is it going to better those shoes in terms of what you're going to get from them in terms of performance? I'm not sure yet, and you know, it's not ridiculously expensive, so it kind of sits in the right place. It's more expensive than the Pegasus 39, which I think is a good versatile shoe that works for a variety of kind of sessions. And you know, whether you're going to get the same here, I'm not sure yet. It's definitely one that I'm going to kind of feel out the more running I do in it. But that's the thing. I think there's a lot of strong shoes in that kind of fit this criteria already. Is Nike bettering it with the Peg Turbo? I'm not 100% sure yet, but yeah, look, I'm open to, you know, Nike changing my opinion over kind of more running. And if they've created something here, a sustainable or more planet-friendly shoe that actually gives you that performance to work as a kind of strong daily trainer, then, you know, that's great. And it's not, you know, it's not ridiculously priced, I don't think, either, in the, you know, the grand scheme of things of other daily trainers. So yeah, I mean, initial verdict for me, I liked it. I didn't absolutely love it, but it was fine for me on that run. And yeah, just looking to see whether Nike has really come up with the goods in terms of the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, you know, creating something that is more planet friendly, more sustainable, but, you know, crucially, it's delivering on the performance front as well. So yeah, looking forward to spending a lot more time running in this shoe.
So that's it for us. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, click that little bell icon, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got from the latest road and trail shoes, as well as running headphones and watches out at the moment. And don't forget to also go into the captions below, where you can find a link to our monthly podcast that comes out at the end of every month. If you click that link, you can go through to all the different podcast providers that are hosting our podcast. And thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you soon.